I am great. Big fan of Ancient Astronauts, and I've been following you forever on the History Channel and all kinds of television for years
Well,
now.
well,
What
thank you very much.
what is America's fascination with Ancient Astronaut Theory?
Hey, look, the Ancient Astronaut Theory was popular in the 1970s with Chariots of the Gods and Eric von Daniken and all of his colleagues. And, I got my start sort of through Eric von Daniken. He took me under his wings when I was 15, 16. He imparted all his knowledge to me. I traveled the world with me, or he traveled the world with me, and I traveled the world with him. And I traveled the world with myself, obviously. But, when Ancient Aliens came along, people seem to have forgotten that the show began as a one-off, 2-hour special. And, the people involved, including myself and Eric, we thought, man, this was the pinnacle of our career. It can't get any better than this. And then, the phone call came for another, for season one, which was, which was incredible. And so around 2015, 2016, I'm traveling with Eric, and we go to different alien cons, and we're also going to some event down in Brazil. And I hear him say that this whole experience with ancient aliens to him is like Chariots of the Gods 2.0, because back in the day in the 70s, Chariots of the Gods was a phenomenon, and he was really blown away that he got to experience the same type of love and reception and compassion with the people from Ancient Aliens like he did with Chariots of the Gods. So for him to call it Chariots of the God 2.0, pretty awesome.
I mean, there's a thin line between conspiracy theory and the science that you put forth. I mean, you put together actual information, you travel the globe, you actually do a lot of study behind your ideology and theories.
Well, and often you have to wonder too. Then what constitutes a conspiracy theory? According to a definition, it's one or more people or two people that conspire. So, that's fairly easy to be accomplished. So, then you can look at everything as a conspiracy theory. And we've now been long around enough to recognize that some conspiracy theories turn out to be true. And, this goes the same with science. I mean, look at science books from 200 years ago, and let's say when a science book was published 200 years ago, the chances were that this was the height of the accumulated knowledge of the time. And so for something to get published on paper in, leather-bound books, then that had to have been pretty, a special and knowledge that was verified, quote unquote. Well, look at these books today, and you'd be hard-pressed to find even 5% that still holds true today. Why? Well, because knowledge of science has changed, even though even 100 years ago, 150 years ago, everybody thought that we have now achieved the pinnacle of science and knowledge. And, that's simply not the case. I mean, look, even the ancient Greeks, when we went from the Greeks and the Romans to the Middle and the Dark Ages, the information that the Earth is indeed a sphere was completely lost. And somehow the flat Earth theory, has made a resurgence. So if you want me to talk about one conspiracy theory that's complete baloney, it's the flat Earth theory, because we could not have cell phone technology, we could not have television technology, we could not have computer technology the way we have it currently if we were on a whatever they call it is. So it's very bizarre to live in these times right now, because if the aliens guy says that the Earth is not flat, ladies and gentlemen, please take that to the bank.
It's amazing how we're still discovering things all around the world. You've been on several expeditions. I myself have been to the Danta pyramids in Guatemala, the pyramids in Egypt, and they're still discovering stuff to this day. So you never have things to run. You never run out of things to talk about.
Well, I mean, that what you just said is true, because for many, many years, there was always a patch answer that, there are no questions about the pyramids in Giza anymore in Egypt, that all the answers or all the questions have been answered. And that is simply untrue, because only 6 years ago, they discovered essentially a secondary grand gallery located above the grand gallery inside the Great Pyramid. And any one of our listeners who have ever been inside the grand gallery of the Great Pyramid of Giza knows what a big, gigantic hall, and I call it a hall, it is. And to think that there is an identical void right above you, and they've discovered this with muon technology and LIDAR and satellite technology, where for decades we were told, oh yeah, this is not happening. There's nothing else there, because you just said you read Chariots, or you've been an ancient astronaut theorist for a while. Then you remember there were books that were published in the mid 80s and early 90s where they showed reports of Japan's Waseda University, where already in the 80s, that university used they measured cosmic rays traveling through the pyramids. And already back then, they discovered voids or chambers. But the information was sort of suppressed. I mean, obviously it came out, otherwise I couldn't talk about it, but you had to go look for it. You had to read the specific scientific journals. You had to read the books in which these excerpts of these scientific reports were published. And so it was all there, but you had to hunt it down. Today with the internet, all this stuff is more readily available. And so now you can type in Waseda University 1980s radar investigation of the Great Pyramid, and you will have access to that information right away. But so that giant grand gallery was discovered, in my opinion, means that this is not the only chamber. There is more. I mean, the entire Giza Plateau is honeycombed. It's like a Swiss cheese with artificial underground structures, and rarely people talk about it.
How much of your job is really being an investigator still to this day and questioning the narrative at all times?
This is how I walk through life. I mean, I sometimes go to the zoo, and the zoo should be a place of, where you turn off your brain and just enjoy yourself. And I look around at all the animals, and I say, oh, this was all just done by ordinary Darwinian evolution. It makes no sense. I mean, one single visit to the zoo should be, a gong should ring in everybody's brains that, conventional evolution, even though I personally have never denied that evolution exists, that the fossil record exists, no question. However, there are these gaps in between species and in between transitions, and which, by the way, to this day, not just with Homo sapiens or with our human ancestors, also with, regular animals from the animal kingdom, where geneticists and biologists have no clue, and anthropologists, how these different species were created. And it always boils down to that one little thing called what Darwin himself referred to as the missing link. And the missing link is one of the most fascinating stories of all time, and also absurd stories of all time, because people are looking for what this missing link is. And I'm sorry to report, and actually I'm not sorry, but the only answer that actually satisfies Occam's razor as far as the evolutionary questions is concerned is extraterrestrials. A direct intervention of our genes by extraterrestrials who visited us thousands of years ago.
And that's going to be just a taste of what you get at Ancient Aliens Live Tour. What else can people expect before we go?
Well, if you've been a fan of Ancient Aliens, then it's basically watching an episode of Ancient Aliens with your favorite contributors like myself and Jason Martell, William Henry, and Nick Pope. And it's a 90-minute roller coaster ride around the world where we explore some of the world's, smoking guns of the Ancient Astronaut Theory. And instead of hearing us in snippets, you can hear us in full sentences. So it's a fun night out in the town for the whole family. So bring your friends, bring your family, and by the way, bring the skeptics. We've actually changed people's minds.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Wonderful, Frank. Thank you for having me.